Ailsa, can I introduce you and ask you?
Please. Yeah, and also I have adapted my presentation to account for the fact that I myself didn't get around to reading other people's what do you even call it? My mind's gone blank. That's a good start. Descriptions of what their presentations. So I wasn't expecting everyone to have read the list. So there's a kind of option to incorporate the items, but it's not physically necessary to have them. So do not worry.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm just lighting a candle and I'm going to turn my screen on in a minute. So I'm going to share with you a little something called Seed Collector, Song Collector from where I live in Machynlleth in Mid Wales. And I'm going to start with a song that came to me from the waters of the Dyfi River. Water unclear, water unpure. Ysbryd fanol, ysbryd môr. Water unclear forevermore. Ysbryd yr afon, ysbryd y dŵr. Water unclear, water unclear. Ysbryd y fanol, ysbryd y môr. Water unclear forevermore. Water unclear forevermore. Water unclear forevermore. Un tro amser maith yn ôl, un tro am an awr. Once upon a time, once, here and now, at this cusp of the Celtic year, a time of endings and beginnings. She had found it in the well at the bottom of the cliff, bobbing gently amongst delicate fronds of gutweed. The tiniest trickle of fresh water playing upon its glass. The moon had been full then, and the tide rising, so the first splashes of seawater were starting to make it up into the small pool in the rocks. It was like a cauldron of potion, Last thought, for that was her name, Last Blue. A gift waiting for her, surely. She could have reached it in one stride, but as she rolled up the ends of her trousers and stepped her feet into the cool water, the sand was so silky underfoot, and she inched forward until getting close enough to bend down and pick it up. Potel Gwydarbach, a small glass bottle. she noticed there was a scroll of paper rolled up inside. Just one word. Just one word. Gwrandewch. Listen. And so this became Lars's life's mission. Listen, she did. To the winds, listen, she did. To the waters, listen, she did. To the earth. 10 years old she'd been then, and on adventuring into her teenage years, she explored the coastline of Wales, beginning to hear songs in the sea. More exactly, the sea gave her songs, and she collected them in bottles. The first, in that very special one, a potel Gwydrfach, the corked one from the well. And then others that she'd litter-picked from the beaches, beer bottles left with evidence of sunset fires, drift bottles of ridged old worn glass, and her favourite rose lemonade bottles, which she'd drunk from herself. The first song had come when she'd been sleeping feral in an abandoned beach hut, truant from school, and in a moonlit trance had walked to the sea's edge and stooped to fill her bottle. And the memory of water had held the song fast. If a bottle didn't have a lid, Lars simply jammed a piece of driftwood into the neck to keep the song safe. And there were lots of them, lots of songs. Over the years, Lars became known as Wales's most unusual song collector and travelled the whole coastline, as well as following each and every river and visiting the sacred wells and springs. And almost everywhere she found songs, and found silences too, where songs and language itself had been forgotten. But the memory of water seemed to hold it strong. Aspryd yr afon, aspryd y water run clear, water run pure. And so on she went. Lars's collection quickly got too big to lug around with her in her old little rucksack, so she had to find places to store the bottles. Under the Rosa Rugosa hedgerows that loved the sea salt air. In the back room of a town library. In a community garden tool shed. She had conversations with people then, yn Gymraeg in Welsh, ac yn Saesneg in English, about what she was doing. About what was important in life, about the grief of the loss of loved ones in the plague, about mass species extinction. They had debates on rewilding and farming traditions and the fight to save the Welsh language, yr iaith Cymraeg. And round fires, her songs were shared. Aspryd y dŵr, water run pure. Aspryd yr afon, aspryd y môr. Somewhere on the outskirts of Cardiff, Lars became friends with a gardener who had a passion for collecting seeds, and they shared their wisdom and travelled on together. Lars and Till, the gardener, slept in bus shelters, bothies, occasional abandoned caravans, under hedgerows, and their favourite, in caves. Trawling, a shopping trolley full of clanking bottles, and a battered old suitcase filled with heritage seeds. Years passed, and the tides were swiftly rising. coastal towns last had known in her youth were disappearing. And they had to find higher land. Oh, yeah, yeah. This is how they came to Rogovola, the last cave, where they have been for quite a long while now. Let us join them there. The cave is lit by lanterns. You can hear songs echoing round in the stone wall. If you happen to have a candle, you might want to light it now and add your light to the cave. Lars has arranged her bottles around a central well, each filled with varying amounts of song water that has flowed from all over the world. Till has their seeds in a suitcase stored safely in hundreds or even thousands of little packets. And with these songs, with these seeds, they have plans to save the world from extinction. The cave walls are covered in magnificent etchings of the songs, forming a large sound map transcribed by Lars over the years in an effort to save them forever. And there, the two of them experiment with singing to the seeds as they germinate them, each seed requiring a different song for its unique existence on this planet. If you have a bowl of water, you might want to imagine it is the well at the center of the cave. And perhaps if you happen to have a bottle with you, you might dip it into the water and see if there's a song waiting for you. And if you have a seed, take one in your hand and meditate on what it means to you, on what you want to grow in life, on what you most urgently want to save in this world, what is most precious to you. And if you happen to have a pen and paper with you, you may want to write on it a love letter to your seeds, or some song lyrics perhaps, and then wrap your seeds in this paper, entrusting them to Lars and to Till in a Rogovola, in the last cave, as they dedicate their lives to the saving of these songs and the saving of these seeds, and to the saving of the world. Take these seeds and off you go. Share them with the ones you know. Plant the seeds and watch them grow, and we could live forever. Tree of life, tree of life, oh, you feed our fire. If we plant the seeds of life, we could live forever. rising up, rising up, rising up together, yeah, rising up, rising up together. Take these seeds and up you go. Share them with the ones you know. Plant the seeds and watch them grow, and we could live forever. Rising up, rising up, rising up together. Rising up, rising up, rising up together. Ni fydd byth yn gorffen. Bydd y map sain yn dal I esblygu gyda ni, wrth I henrw gaethau farw allan. Wrth I rai newydd gael ei geni. Wrth I straeon symud gyda'r wyth. Wrth I lefelau'r môr a baihau godi. Yn sicr ni fydd byth yn cael ei orffen, nes bod y rheoleisiau coll yn cael ei codi. Nes clywed rhai distaf a thawel. Peidiwch byth a diystr I pŵer eich leis, neu'ch credigwy. It will never be finished. The sound map will continue to evolve with us, as old species die out, as new ones are born. As stories shift with the times, as the sea levels continue to rise. It will certainly never be finished until all lost voices are remembered, until silent and silenced ones are heard. Never underestimate the power of your voice, or of your creativity. So maybe you would like to share what your seeds are. What songs bring you alive? What unique creative essence you possess to make change with, that cannot, for the life of us, for the life of all of us, be lost. And I had with me also, I had with me a few slides that I prepared to share with you a little of the context of that story, or whatever you want to call it. But I don't know if it needs that or if there's time, and I'm open to questions or sharing with you a little bit of the context of my community in Wales, because there's a lot of interesting dialogue going on around Welsh language, around rewilding, around traditional farming, and really interesting discourse happening here at the moment. And I've had really interesting conversations with my friend Owen Shires, who is a local fellow song collector, collecting the lost folk songs of Ceredigion, the county which he grew up in. And there are some amazing community gardening projects around here as well. And I feel like there's a lot of cross-pollination that's happened in this story. So yeah, I'd like to just open it now to any feedback or any discussion or any sharing you would like. Yeah, diolch yn fawr. Thank you for listening. It had many evolutions. I wasn't sure until the last minute what form that was going to take, because I started off with a kind of more classic presentation and went, oh, I'm just going to sing and then do a ritual, and then it kind of became a little bit of everything. So. I can't actually hear it. Hang on.
Thank you very much, Ailsa.
Thank you.
We can hear you fine. I think Richard's got his hand up. If
I do, but Judith Kate has as well, and I've said enough, so I will defer.
I will defer. Please go, Richard. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to say that I really enjoyed that. I'm really glad to hear you describe it, as you don't quite know what it is, because I really enjoyed the hybridity of that. It felt partly bardic, partly storytelling, partly folk song, partly I don't know what else. Actually, it just felt like there were so many kind of different forms weaved into that, and which meant we never quite knew where we were, which is lovely. Actually, I was quite curious that you chose to bring as your face only when you'd finished. I thought that was quite an interesting choice, because the bardic tradition is so much about the physicality of the face, and I just wondered how deliberate that was, or whether it was just one of those things that ended up happening in this particular form.
Well, I'm really happy to answer that, and it's certainly a question that I was debating with myself up until the very last minute. And the reason I chose not to is actually because I've had a million technical issues today, and this morning when I was watching everyone else's presentations, my screen was just flickering and flickering and flickering, and so I decided to work out a way where I wouldn't have to engage with the screen at all. And in the end, my screen wasn't flickering, but I'd set up my little altar, and I decided to just go with that. And so that's the reason, really. I had a zillion technical issues with being signed in as about 3 different accounts from my housemate's computer. So yeah.
Well, we can see the bottom edge of the soundboard on the guitar, just so that you know. So you did have a presence there on the screen.
Yeah, it wasn't perfect. I like face-to-face interaction, and also it's. I was kind of also intrigued about how it would work without that, because of hearing other people without seeing them on the screen, and actually really enjoying just going into my own imagination with their stories earlier. So yeah, it was mainly that reason.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It did. Oh yeah, it did resonate for me in that same imaginal way, and you wove the spell, and that was just so beautiful. I thought to have the altar there, whether we all had our own artifacts or not, that you gave it to us to have that grounded space, and so that became a frame for me, whether it was originally intended or not. But to have the ritual grounding felt really awesome. I want to know a little more about the music of a beautiful voice. I'm a singer also, and so I was just really excited to meet you when I saw your description. How much was any of that your own original, or you were saying the song was given to you by the receiving of the song from the earth or from however? Can you just talk about your process of being a vessel for that, and also which degree is traditional and where are the traditional strands? Because I don't know very much about Welsh music and I want to learn.
Yeah, well, thank you for that question. And yeah, when I say I received it from the water, I mean, it really does feel like that sometimes. I'm really lucky to live somewhere quite green and very close to the Dovey River, and we also have a barn in our garden with a stream running through it. And I've spent a lot of time singing with water, and I spent a lot of my musical practice involves going out and literally listening to the land and to the water, but also listening beyond the ear to just, I suppose it's just getting myself into a space where I feel tuned in. That's the essence of it. I I try and get myself to a space where I feel tuned in with place, and then see what comes. And I'm a real fan of improvising with the voice and start listening as a starting point, and then just seeing what sounds come, and then sometimes a song will come. And so all of this, like both of those songs and the improvisation. So there were 2 songs I used, and I improvised with both of those live in that storytelling or whatever it was. And the first one was a water blessing song that came to me while I was by the Dovey River in Machynlleth. And then the Rising Up song, the Seed song, actually I wrote when I was occupying some land in Bristol with a bunch of activists who were like the kind of the group that grew into become Extinction Rebellion. Like years ago in Bristol, it was on the Shift Bristol land, we were trying to save some really amazing fertile allotment land that was being bulldozed for a new road that was going to save just a couple of minutes on a bus route, for a new bus route. And there were people living up in the trees, and the group was called Rising Up. So I wrote that song while we were there, and I did lots of singing workshops with people while I was based there. So that's from kind of years back, but it just every now and again just feels like a really appropriate song to bring to something. And then actually I also want to drop in that the storyline of Last, the girl, I kind of evolved it especially for this sharing, but it's a story that's kind of started taking form a few years ago, but I developed it last year when I did a big sound mapping project for which I received Arts Council Wales and National Lottery money to do a Wales-wide call out to invite people to respond creatively to their local soundscapes. And this storyline became a kind of narrative that held everything together. So if you want to see a film version of that story, and also there's another story that follows on from it, and it's kind of like a 4-piece work, audio and film. So I can put a link in the chat to the blog for that whole project, and you can see kind of all of that. Actually, I'm going to bring up the slides that I got together because I've got all the links ready. So I'll just bring that up, and I've got all kinds of things. Oh, it's not going to let me blooming. It's not going to let me shift. Oh yes, it is. Here we go. So yeah, I've got lots of. Oh, so you can see actually some of the sound maps that people sent me. Very different styles. I'm going off on a big tangent now. Hope that's okay. And I really welcome being stopped in my flow for other questions. These are some of the sound maps people sent me, inspired by their soundscapes around their homes in Wales last year, and I made them into a piece of sound storytelling. That's Patchar Robin, who lives with us here in Hampshire. And then, okay, so I'm going to just find the links there. I'm going to leave that up. So you can't copy those actually, can you? That's really useless. I'm going to just type
you can share your file with us in the chat.
Yes. How do I do that?
Just in the chat, there's looks like a piece of paper with a corner turned over. You click on that and you can upload your PowerPoint.
Oh, yeah, I'll do that. And then you can see the other things as well that I didn't share.
Yeah, 'cause I think I may have to reluctantly do my brutal moving us on, because there's so much there that you've set us off thinking about, Ailsa.